as long as you live. Tonight I'm gonna give you all my heart can give.
98 degrees, this gift. It's the Christmas version, 8:13 on your Thursday morning. Thanks so much for having the morning drive on. We have with us again Executive Chairman of PropNex, Mr. Ismail Gafoor, for Real Talk Real Estate. Ismail, thanks again for joining us.
Truly a pleasure. And a bit sad it's going to be the last
Yes, this is
episode.
the last one.
Yes,
This is the last one. So we have taken you from buying an HDB to going through HDB into condos, and now we're going to go from condo to landed. What to prepare for in terms of cost, regulations, long-term planning. Is it a dream you should follow? There are a lot of questions. We're going to be running a question across the bottom of our screen as well. Would you invest in landed property? It's a simple yes or no. Would you invest in landed property? We have got copies of Mr. Ismail Gafoor's award-winning book, I Am Not Good Enough, up for grabs, okay? So answer the question as it pops up on the bottom of our screen. Okay, Ismail, let's get down to this. What are the main driving factors behind upgrading moves from condos to landed in Singapore? Why do we see this as the ultimate status symbol? Is it just that the landed property is so expensive?
No,
What?
I think, Mark, put it this way. If I see it in Singapore's property, the gold standard is landed.
Okay.
The ultimate.
Okay.
And I will tell you, it really doesn't matter whether is it in an old inter-terrace
Okay.
or a GCB. I think when we talk about good class bungalows, beyond most of us.
Yes,
But we don't
yes.
even need to go to that space at all, in my view.
okay.
But I'm just talking about landed. You know what? If you look at data and numbers, we are only talking about 75,000 of landed properties in Singapore.
Is that all?
That's all 75,000 versus a 375,000 condominium. So
Yeah.
for every one landed property, there are 5 condominiums. So it is 1 is to 5.
Yeah.
Then when we look at the public housing, we are talking about 1.16 million. So we are talking about for every one landed property, there are as good as 13 to 14 HDB properties. So that's why it is the ultimate. But the main reason, people do want to have an upgrade to a landed is because it's the preservation of wealth. And it's also part of a legacy planning. Because of the mere fact that the numbers are so few,
Right.
it tend to have its value there. And that's why, Mark, you exactly pointed out, is it because the price is expensive? But later part, we will deep dive
Yeah.
to say there are affordable landed properties as
No
well.
way. There's
Yeah.
affordable landed property in Singapore?
Okay, when we look at it in terms of the median entry prices.
Yeah.
For inter-terrace, the median average for this year, 2025, as of last month that we computed by my research department, is $4 million. While the median for a brand new launch, new condo is 2.1 million.
Double.
And as far as the resale condo is 1.7. So obviously when we look at the median, anybody who want to upgrade from a condo to a landed, it is exactly a 100% jump.
Yes.
Yeah, that's given. Yeah, but beyond that, it's something is really worthwhile a consideration.
Is it really possible for condo owners to make that upgrade to landed property? Are the homes accessible? Are there properties that are undervalued? I think that those are the questions, and I would like to find out about the undervalued properties, whether they are actually there or not. Keep it with us. We're going to go on to Facebook, and we're going to deal with this on our Facebook. So we're live on Facebook and on YouTube. So, landed homes, are they still accessible? Are there properties that are undervalued?
For sure there are, Mark, but put again the whole context why we were just talking about condo to landed, but it does not necessarily mean someone from a HDB cannot just make that jump to a
straight away.
landed.
Yeah.
But statistics that what we have studied for this year for a period until 2nd December, so a good 11 months, all the landed property that were transacted were 1,082, of which 86% of the purchases were upgraders with private property addresses. Yep.
Oh, so
which
they
means
went
to say,
landed to landed.
no, from a condo
to landed.
to a landed.
Condo
So
to
that's
landed.
why it make the jump become much more easier
Yeah.
for someone who's staying in a condo because of the property prices are much higher to go to landed. But there were also 14% of HDB home address owners who purchased a landed. Yep. So that is definitely not an 100% increase from a HDB, but it could be a double more or the current property worth. But it all depends on not only the value of the property, one individual's position in terms of cash, their pay increment over the years, because you need to definitely take a bigger loan if your outlay is not strong.
Yeah.
But what is interesting here is this, again, that we noticed that about 56% of all the landed homes that were transacted below $5 million, there are still huge number below the $5 million mark. So for all the interterrace and landed properties that were transacted, put together, there were 56% that was sold below $5 million mark.
So these below $5 million homes, are they the older homes? When I say older, I mean like, in Serangoon Gardens, you get these older houses. Are those the houses we're talking about? The smaller, older landed?
Not necessarily. In fact, we further deep dive, Mark. There were actually about 400 over units transacted below 4 million.
Wow.
So you see, there are, in fact, to be exact, there were 418 deals for the first 11 months, including freehold 999 and as well as leasehold in areas like Serangoon Garden,
Right.
Tavistock Avenue,
Yep.
Elite Park Avenue in Bedok, Surin Avenue in Hougang. They were transacted below $4 million, $3 to $3.9 million. So I think one of the key things, obviously one cannot buy a terrace house at these prices if it is newly built. When we talk about
Obviously,
newly built, is well above the 6 million and so on. You are right. Not necessarily they are dilapidated, but they could be a single story home.
Yes.
Or they could be double story, but they are more than 25 years old. There could also be some 99-year leasehold property that will be below $2 million.
Okay, but if it's, let's say it's a 99-year leasehold property, am I going to, if it's say 30 years old, is it worth me buying? I tell you what, let's go back onto radio, and I'll ask you that question about, again, we did it with condos and HDBs. We'll do it with landed property. We'll do that on radio. That's the Baj Rhythm of the Night, 8:21 on your Thursday morning, the morning drive. We are here with Mr. Ismail Gafoor, who is the executive chairman of PropNex. It's a segment we call Real Talk Real Estate, and this is our final episode. We're talking about moving from condos to landed property. So when we talk about these landed properties, okay, the 99-year lease, say $3 million, the home is maybe 40 years old. Worth it or not worth it?
I would say yes. One will have to look at it personal and individual needs, Mark. Because why one of the greatest advantage of landed here is people like the space.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, we are talking about landed. Usually, the built-in area or the livable space could be anything above 2,005 to 3,000 to even slightly above 3,000.
Yeah.
And that kind of space is not easily available. So if people want the space and they're prepared to compromise on the lease, in fact, below 2 million, you could get a 99-year leasehold property. But there are also property below $1 million landed.
No.
Truly. In fact, one landed property was transacted at 600,000.
Where are you living out in the Ulu somewhere?
No, it's not that. But the lease is so depleted. Your balance lease are only less than 20 years and so on.
Right.
I mean, you can look at some properties at Rifle Range Road where,
Yeah.
or for that matter, even Budok Sempang over there, they're all a 99-year leasehold where the balance lease, as you said, is 20, 30 years and so on. But there's a huge risk, I must say, huge risk, Mark, from an investment angle.
Yeah.
Because when you enter such property, in some of these instances, the bank may not even willing to give a loan.
Wow.
Because your lease is so short that because if the bank gives you a loan and if you are forced to sell for whatever reason and you may not find a buyer or the value may depreciate so much faster. Okay, let's not focus on this group. This smaller number of property. Generally, they ask me a question, is it worth buying a 99-year leasehold property? The answer is yes. But the ideal situation, if you are buying a resale 99-year leasehold property, it should have a balanced 70-year lease would be good.
Okay.
So that you could stay there for another 10, 15 years and probably you can upgrade to a freehold and you can just hand over the balance lease at least a 60 years or 55 years or someone else to enjoy the space and still can make some money or maybe just appreciate based on inflation and so on.
Okay, cool. We're going to go back onto Facebook and talk about resale liquidity, future resale liquidity, since landed homes may cost arguably more.
The Morning Drive.
On Facebook Live and on YouTube. So, Ismail, should buyers plan for future resale liquidity? I mean, landed property homes arguably cost more. How can they make effective financial planning if they want to make that leap to a landed home?
Yeah, for certain, yes, financial planning is very, very crucial as far as landed property is concerned, simply because unlike condominiums, there are more costs may involved. Straight with your stamp duties will be much higher and your quantum is much higher. The loan is for sure is going to be in a bigger amount that you will have to pay on a monthly mortgage. But beyond that, here is this. What you have to also set aside here is this. The renovation, if it is necessary, especially if you buy an older properties, right? In terms of to exit, I really don't think it is an issue. We started off by saying that landed properties are the gold standard of a property investment in Singapore. Regardless of whether they are old or resale or new, there is always a ready buyer for the right price. And the landed property prices have moved up a fair amount over the last many years. So I think it is definitely very well sought after.
Could you help us break down the cost of landed home ownership? Things like from maintenance to rebuilding to property taxes. What are the costs involved?
I mean, as far as the basic cost, like the stamp duties at the entry level, whether is it a landed or condo, is all going to be the same.
Right.
I think what is more interesting, and I want to give some, probably you call it as a tip, will be one have to be very careful, especially buying a landed property, because the renovation cost can be a sizable amount. And it may not be so straightforward. People think that, okay, I buy a single story, not one bedroom, a single story landed property, and I'm going to demolish and rebuild the whole house. By today's norm, if you want to demolish and put another house, let's say a 2.5 story, if you don't have at the most prudent budget of $2 million, it's not going to be possible.
Okay.
And chances are it will be above $2 million, depending on the material and all other things concerned.
Right.
So if you want to do just an A&A, addition and alterations, therefore we must make sure, even if you buy a 2-story old house, because once you want to do, and if it is 30 years old, the wiring, the piping things, and the flooring and the windows and the roofing. So almost literally you have to touch every part of the house.
Right.
So it is going to cost you no less than more than $500,000.
Wow.
Unless, of course, you buy a landed property that it was just rebuilt about 10, 15 years ago. It suits your needs. And if you want to do some a little renovation, and it still could be 100 to 200 to $250,000. So the renovation cost is key as long as it is a resale. Yep. One of the bigger advantage here is this: there's no maintenance or conservancy charges like what we pay for a condominium because of facilities, swimming pool, and so on. But here everything is within yours.
Yeah.
So you just need to upkeep the house in terms of repair and so on. So this is where you need to have some reserve buffer.
Okay. Just a question. This is sheer ignorance, and maybe you can answer it for me. I buy a single story. I want to add on a bedroom. Can that be done?
Can be done. So it's again have to conform to the BCA guidelines that you must give space between your neighboring plot and your plot. And if every other thing is you can add on to a room. This is what we call it as additions and alterations within the guidelines. So that's why I think for landed it is really a bit tricky, Mark. It's good to have a person who's qualified, and normally when you speak to a salesperson, he have got these data, and you may even consult if you intend to do something much greater renovation, to bring in an architect or an renovation contractor to give you, before even you commit, the kind of amount of money you have to set aside.
Right. Perhaps you can walk us through the different types of landed homes. If you can highlight the key differences. There's good class bungalow, which we hear a lot about in the papers these days. There are detached homes, semi-detached homes. There are terrace houses. There's so many different types. What is what?
Yeah, I think if we go from the right on top at the peak is GCB. And what it means here is this: good class bungalows are gazetted such that it only comes in 39 areas in Singapore. And they're so very specific. And once it is stated as a GCB, one cannot go and buy and subdivide and create multiple smaller units. A GCB have to retain its size minimum of no less than 1,400 square meters, which is about 15,000 square feet size. That's is huge. The minimum size of a GCB. And it can go all the way to 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. That's why we can see some of the GCBs are really commanding. And there's also another requirement for a GCB: the frontage must be minimum 18.5 meters frontage, and the depth must be 30 meters. So you see, there's so many criteria to qualify. First, even if you have all these size and so on, but if that place happened to be, let's say, at Siglap, it still don't qualify as a GCB because Siglap is not one of the gazetted GCB area. So it is just not nearby size. So they're very specific locations, and most of it are located very in core central district and elsewhere. Identified areas only have GCB.
So these GCBs, would those, the old black and white houses and stuff like that would be considered GCB homes, right?
Depending on
again where they are.
Whether they fulfill all the other requirements.
I could pick up a black and white house, but if it's not in the right area, it's not GCB.
No, not necessarily. For sure, it's not.
Wow.
Yeah. So you see, GCB has got very specific requirements.
Yeah.
But let's put it this way, and we are only talking about, in terms of the number of GCBs, just about 2,000 over units in the whole of Singapore.
Okay,
so we already said the landed properties are 75,000, and we are talking about GCBs numbers being 2,700 to 2,800. That's why this is the pinnacle, the peak.
Yeah.
But then the minute when we go after the GCB, then we have bungalows. And a requirement for a bungalows here is the size have to be minimum 400 square meters. So it's about 4,500 square feet.
Yeah.
So that's the minimum. And there's also one more requirement. The frontage have to be at least 10 meters. Then if not, it doesn't qualify as a bungalow.
So these GCBs and these bungalows, it is all about the building. It is not about the property size.
Yes, it is not the house is being seated. It's the land size. So the land frontage, the land size is a minimum requirement.
I
you can have a GCB land with no house dilapidated house,
yeah.
but doesn't matter because it still qualify because by the land
By the land
size, the
size.
width, the
Yeah.
depth, and as such.
Oh.
Yeah. So that is the second, right? That
Right,
we are
right.
talking
The
about
bungalows,
being
yeah.
bungalows. Then the next tier will be the semi-detached house.
Okay.
Basically, there will be one wall that you share with your neighbor.
With a neighbor.
But therefore, you could still walk around 180 degrees around from the back entrance
Yeah.
to the front. And that's a semi-D. And finally is the inter-terrace houses.
Okay, explain this one to me.
Yeah. Basically, when we talk about inter-terrace, which is at the entry level, your retaining wall is shared by your right side neighbor and your left side neighbor.
Oh, so you're both sides. Yeah.
So there's a row of houses. You can enter the house to the front gate. You still can have a plot of a garden right in front. You can park your car and you can go all the way to the back behind the kitchen. You can still have another small garden to put your plants and so on. But you cannot walk around the house. So basically, semi-detached allows somebody to run around the house 160 degrees.
Yeah.
A bungalow can be 360
Yeah.
degrees, while in the inter-terrace, you enter the front and you exit from the
So in a row of inter-terrace houses, because I'm both sides I have houses, the houses on the end, are
Corners.
those, the corners, are those,
They are
what
known as they are known as corner terrace.
oh, okay.
So the attributes of a corner terrace and a semi-D is exactly the same. But it's still not the status of a semi-D because, I mean, very crudely to put, in a semi-D, your neighbor have the same status as you, both of you.
Yeah.
In a corner terrace, your neighbor is not of the same status. So he is an inter-terrace and a string of inter-terrace.
Right, but you've got that, you're on the end, so you're one notch up.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, now that's really interesting. What are the considerations when deciding between, let's say, freehold and 99 years? Is it strictly about the time, or what governs decisions?
No, I
with
think
that?
one of the key important thing. I'll give you this one classic example, Mark. If we remember just a couple of years ago, less than 5 years ago, there were these leasehold terrace houses along Geylang.
Yes.
And they were at 60-year lease.
Yes.
And once the lease expired, everybody have to return the land and the house and vacate. As opposed to 60 years ago, somebody would have bought this place for $15,000. 60 years ago, a freehold property at Lorong Melayu or nearby Geylang would have cost 20 to 25,000. People, those who bought it, the parents or the grandparents bought it for $15,000,
Yeah.
a 60-year lease. If they have paid $20,000, today the $20,000 is worth $3.5 million, while the 60-year lease comes to a zero value and you return. So that is the same thing is going to happen to a 99-year leasehold property. A 99-year leasehold landed property today, one can buy it at 2.5 million, or as I said, can even be below 2 million. When the lease expires, the value goes to zero. While a freehold land, regardless of how dilapidated the house is,
Yeah.
it still have its value simply because the land is freehold.
Right.
And today with 3 million, in 50 years down the road, the value of the land could be 5 million. So that is the major key factor. So a freehold land always allow part of a legacy planning to transfer the wealth from one generation to another generation.
it's appreciation.
Yes, so that's as far as the freehold is concerned. The other, but on the other hand, there are still many 99-year leasehold landed property is perfectly okay, but one need to know the limitations. People knowingly still buy 99.
Yeah.
Say that, okay, I will not be able to afford a 4 to 5 million. I'm happy to pay 2.2 million, but it gives me a 3,500 square foot. I still got a 50 years and I'm already 50 years. In my lifetime, my children, whoever, I'm happy. I'm not thinking about a legacy planning.
Yeah.
But at entry level, I paid much lower. So this is something people will have to deal with at the decision making at entry, knowing the exit for both parties are different.
Okay. What should buyers look out for when they are evaluating the condition of a property, particularly an older property? What are the potential pitfalls when we're buying an older landed property? Let's deal with that on radio.
Wrapping up another throwback on 1FM 91.3.
Music that's built to last.
Elton John taking us back in time. We are talking to Mr. Ismail Gafoor. He is the Executive Chairman of PropNex on Real Talk Real Estate. Our final episode, Condo to Landed Property. We're dealing with the various questions. So what should buyers look out for when they are evaluating the condition of older landed property? What are the potential pitfalls? We spoke very briefly about things like wiring and plumbing. And is there other stuff that they should be looking over?
I mean, for certain, I think first and foremost here is this, especially when we are buying the older landed property, the first decision here is this: the layout, does that suits your need? The minute it doesn't suit your needs, because assuming the mere intention you wanted to buy, you wanted more space, and if the space is not there, and if you want to add on one more room or you want to upgrade it, then it straight away go and hit into your cost. And that is the key crucial thing. Do you have set aside that kind of money to do this thing? But obviously some of the issues here will be, when you look at it, it may be at entry as lower price, but are there termites? Sometimes, and once the termites attack is there, then you really have to rip, and a lot of your woodwork would have just been inside hollow and rotten. Cracks, and whether the beams supports, roof damage, water seepage, and these are all some of the things that we need to know, especially one who wants to buy and wants to rebuild. Then we also need to know the soil conditions, right? Some in the eastern part could be soft clay land, and some could be, So the when you want to redo, the foundations may be of a different requirement, and that again hit your costs. What kind of foundation you need to build for these areas?
So who do I see about does my property agent know this kind of thing, or what?
So generally you can ask the property agent. And property agents, most of them who are specialized in landed properties, they know, because they will know. But I think as a safety, if your desire is to demolish, rebuild, and A&A, you should also consult the right expert, either an engineer or an architect or a simple contractor who have done such things, and he knows, and he will give you a rough estimate before you even jump into making a commitment.
Okay, let's move on to financing limits under TDSR. How does this affect landed property buyers? Have we seen any dip in sales since TDSR was implemented in 2013?
Yes, I think we have seen that as a trend. When we did a trend study, every time when the TDSR are introduced, meaning total debt servicing ratio, and then we see when this TDSR was introduced in 2013, suddenly we saw, before that, the volume of transactions of landed property in a year was about 3,000. In 2012 was about 3,001. In 2010 was about 3,300 landed property was transacted. Immediately when the TDSR was introduced in 2013, the next 2013, 14, 15, and 16, the volume of transaction was half.
Wow.
We are talking about 1,001. The lowest was in 2014. Only 976 transactions took place immediately after the TDSR framework, because it limits the amount of loan one could qualify, and landed properties quantum. But slowly it picked up, and in 2021 we went back to the peak, crossing 3,600. Especially after the COVID, everybody felt that they want to run away to have a bigger space.
Very true.
So things are much better. But again, we saw a dip again when the TDSR in 2023 was reduced from 60% to 55% as part of the cooling measures. And then we saw the volume again dip to below 2,000 mark last 2 years. So TDSR, total debt servicing ratio, do have an impact in the volume of transactions, because it limits the ability for the people to secure a bigger loan.
Okay.
But I think this is a prudent part on anyone. They shouldn't over leverage buying a landed property, because at the end of the day, one may never know when something hit that you may need to repair.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one final question for you. Landed property homes, are they still a legacy asset? How do you see generational wealth transfer and rising affluence? Has it affected future demand for landed homes?
I think as we end this segment and the 5 episode, I really want to say landed home are one of the safest investment in Singapore. Today, Mark, when you look at it, condominiums were for new launch are well above 3 to 4 million, and we are talking about 1,500 square foot, a 99 leasehold. If you take at $2,500, is already 3.75 million, a 99-year leasehold. Yeah. Therefore, investing a landed, and even though it is a Singaporean privilege, and there are only 75,000 homes, and you'd be surprised, in the last 10 years, the numbers did not move, because the government don't release many more landed properties. And again, the study has shown over the last 30 years, the landed properties have increased by 217%.
Wow.
Yep. On average, while a 99-year leasehold landed property during the same period is still increased based on inflation, but 96%. So the freehold landed property still command demand.
Okay, don't forget we've got our question running on Facebook. Would you invest in landed property? It's a yes/no answer. You could win Ismail Gafoor's award-winning book, I Am Not Good Enough. Ismail, thank you so much for being with us over these last 5 episodes. It has been amazing. I have learned so much. It has been incredible. You are a fountain of knowledge when it comes to the property market.
No, thank you so much for your kind words, Mark. And I truly enjoyed all the 5 episodes. And my simple advice to all the listeners here is this: buy within your means. That's the first point. Don't overstretch, but look at property as a wealth building, so that when the time is right, we can always right size. If you're on HDB, if you can afford it, if buying a condo, so that during our older years, we can always go back to a smaller condo or a HDB, and then we can live life with dignity.
Very true. Thank you very much, Mr. Ismail Gafoor. It has been so educational. Real talk, real estate on 1FM 91.3.
1FM 90.